Good evening and welcome to Where's the Art? Tonight we're going to be looking at Picasso in relation to the academic tradition. So the case in point here is the Bouguereau with Bacchus, the Youth of Bacchus, and Picasso's Demoiselles d'Avignon. We have been looking at how the changes that came over the artists of the late 1800s, and Picasso in 1905 painted this seminal work, La Demoiselles d'Avignon. Leslie, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. What can we say about it?
This was his first attempt at this portrayal of more or less the same sort of parallel, women, nakedness, and all that sort of sexuality in a painting, and his stylized for the faces, particularly a very kind of African mask style of portrayals, which he was getting into at the time, wasn't he?
He was investigating the brute arts, yes.
That's right. There's again. I mean, I think here we're now going into a flatness, aren't we? A flatness of.
Yeah, we've lost all sense of perspective now.
All sense of perspective
By
gone.
now, perspective doesn't exist anymore.
And multiple viewpoints taken from portrayed in one figure, and the twisting and the distortion of each figure is very very striking, I think.
Why would he be satisfied with a work like this? By all accounts, I believe this painting is unfinished. Is that not so, Gino?
Yeah. Apparently, yes. He always said it's unfinished.
For me, it's unfinished because he didn't know what to do next. Because he lost the vision, or because he got interested in something else. But we have what we have. He seemed to have been satisfied, though there were 13 years in his studio and he never showed it. And after 13 years, he decided to show it. Why do you think that he would have been satisfied with a work like this?
I think.
What was he after?
I think a departure from the traditional, because we all know that he was a very competent painter.
Exactly.
I think he was probably fed up with doing the same thing over and again, and I think he was looking for. And at the time, there was this, a breakthrough in the way that scientists were looking at,
yes,
the world,
technology, yes,
and technology
changing,
and
yes.
metaphysics and all that sort of. All these people theorizing about, multiple universes or multiple planes and time and movement and motion. So I think he was interested in that. I think that's how. I think he was trying to reflect that in the. He's trying to reflect what was going on in his mind.
Was he saying in a way that it was about time that pure emotion was displayed in public, rather than telling you a story? Was that part of the agenda there, that he was saying, "This is how I feel, and I'm going to paint it"? I think that's part of his agenda, which was not allowed, or in very small doses allowed in the academic tradition.
As opposed to it being more of a storytelling.
That's right. It's more like a banging of a drum, of making a stamp of who you are, rather than what you want to say, type of work.
But I think it could be a very, given the title, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, it could be an ironic title, because demoiselle is like a very sweet, in French, like little misses, of Avignon. And why Avignon? You know, and
Avignon,
not
because
Paris.
that was the street where the whorehouse was.
Oh, right.
It was in Avignon, in Rue d'Avignon, in Paris.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
Which probably he frequented himself.
probably. But just calling them Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, there is an irony in relation to the subject. No? And you were saying
You
it's,
mean because of grotesqueness of the...
Si,
there's
si,
no
si.
daintiness in
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah.
and the demoiselles
Yeah.
would suggest daintiness and gentleness,
yeah.
and it's a very
yeah. No,
sort
this
of
is
brutish
something
painting. No?
brutish, and of course, let's not forget that it's a very big painting. And this one I've seen, and of course, it's Picasso would have been here as a man painting those women and doing what he wants with them pictorially. Let's not forget that his love life was rather his relationship with women. Here he could dominate the women through paint, and he could do with women what he wanted.
See, we all know he was a misogynist. Let's look at the masks a little bit closer, because there's a story to be told here with the mask-like faces, because he was investigating Iberian art, and I think he was fascinated by the rawness and purity of tribal art, which is a going back to the primitive, to the real, to the very beginnings of art. I think that is very telling of the modern mind wanting authenticity and fed up with academic beauty and no brushstrokes to be seen anywhere, and the subject matter had to be chosen by a priest or a general or somebody in the hierarchy. So,
but it goes very well with the time. For example, in relation to Freud. Freud, a lot of his work was going back to infancy or trauma in infancy, or into the past, or in relation to something like the Oedipus complex. You know, going back to primitive Greece. Greece, the country, not primitive Greece.
Not the
Greece,
movie.
Not the film.
No, the nation. So there's that. You know, let's go back again, and I think we've touched on this. That it's very French, and for example, it's the start more or less at this time of anthropology, and Claude Lévi-Strauss. And they're all going all over the place.
And they're all bringing weird animals.
And they're all bringing weird things. And I met this tribe in of Maoris or Tahiti, in which they're all like, wow, you know, like. But there was always that idea of, if you go back to the Garden of Eden, and we've mentioned this before, no? That, and maybe this Les Demoiselles d'Avignon and the brothel becomes like a kind of Garden of Eden for Picasso, and when he can do like a child, and he mentioned that often.
I'm glad you've mentioned the word, Gino, the childlike Picasso, because if you remove perspective from a painting, how do you do a painting? And it can only be in patterns, and it can only be in segments, and it can only be in planes, because you don't allow yourself the sense of the lie of atmospheric perspective, trying to create an illusion of 3D. And he doesn't want to do that, but he still wants to do a painting. So his means are now much limited. So he becomes a child, because child drawings have no perspective in them. They're just flat shapes on a piece of paper. So that is another insight into where he wants to go. He wants to be true, he wants to be pure in front of the canvas, with no theories behind him, just his vision.
And his, maybe something that, a word that we don't really use in relation to Picasso, his rhythm. I look at that, it's a very rhythmic painting. The way that it's the slashings and the curves and the pointed angles. It's
and it takes us back to El Greco.
And it takes us back. When I saw
the Greco is becoming a giant. He's a towering figure for the modernists.
When I saw this,
he's really talking to them.
It had been brought from New York to Paris, and when you went into the exhibition, you had the opening of the seventh seal of Greco, and in the room at the end, you had this. So the parallels were
Obvious,
clear
no?
and
Clear,
obvious.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the way, that's the one that started it, and that's what Picasso did with art.
We could stay with this painting for the whole of the program, but we're not going to do that. We're going to move to the guitarist, or the guitar player. Now, when they first showed the painting, Picasso first showed the journalists that were doing the write-ups for his work, said he paints in little cubes. And so the word cubist and cubism was coined. And here we have, even though the Demoiselles is like a proto-cubist painting, the theories and the techniques have not been yet worked out. But now he's beginning to work them out. And we end up with the most beautiful work. For me, it's a marvelous piece of work, the guitar player. Leslie?
I haven't seen this, the original one, but I think it's a wonderful one. And there are other examples of Braque as well, who was
Braque,
Braque,
yes.
Braque.
painting with him. And they're absolutely amazing. But actually, I don't think that's a mandolin. It's called Girl with a Mandolin. It's not a mandolin. I think it's a lute.
A lute? Oh, could
Because
be,
the
yeah,
headstock,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
the headstock is
It's-
pointing
yeah, yeah,
backwards,
it's a lute.
and a mandolin has F holes. So this is not a mandolin. This is a lute. But anyway, that's besides the point. It's interesting. But this one in particular, I think he's using he uses a technique here to, although it's all broken down into sections and simplified into shapes, you know, the cone and the sphere and all that. With
Exactly,
Cézanne.
going back to Cézanne, yes.
He's still using shadows and to create that illusion of something coming out of the painting.
Solidity.
Yes.
He's trying to capture solidity because he wants to be in the real world and he knows that the real world has edges.
Yes.
And gentlemen, we have to stop it there because we're going to a break. It comes so quickly. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back. Leslie, you were saying about Picasso trying to achieve the solidity of space. So he uses a technique with the light and the shade.
Assuming that there's a light source on the top left of the picture and creating a shadow so that you can create some forms, identifiable forms.
Yes.
Something that people can say, that's a woman and that's a mandolin, although it's not. And you can see her breasts, you can see her hand, you can see everything there. But there is a play there, isn't there, between figure and background, where it's, although here whereas in the other one there's a flatness there, including the background.
Yes.
In this one there's a more
It's-
distinct
Sense of
let's
depth,
push it
sense
back.
of depth.
Has depth
But
still.
it's not a real depth, is it?
No.
It's not a real depth. It's,
No.
it's an
It's a
illusionary
sculptural
depth.
depth.
It's a mental depth. It's a sculptural depth.
Yes.
That's right. It's not the same depth as in the Bouguereau, which is trying to depict the sky and
No,
the land.
yeah.
It's another kind of
Yeah,
depth.
But one of the first things that's touched me, I've noticed under the signature, it's 1914, so exactly 100 years.
100 years old.
Thank you.
Can
So
I
this is,
see
you know,
my
we're doing
glasses
it
for that?
in 2014, I've just noticed.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
This is a painting which is exactly
100 years old.
100 years old. For your viewers, this is 100 years old. We're not talking about the contemporary and the whole issue of contemporary now. And it's, of course, just before the start of the First World War. Again, yeah. But going back to and comparing to Les Demoiselles, I find this much more painterly. The effects are much more painterly than the rawness of the other one.
Si.
Maybe, we don't know whether he would have liked to continue that one on the issue of the unfinished, whether he would have made Les Demoiselles more painterly, put it that way. He left it in its rawness. But there are certain things here also which also will be developed by the surrealists. See, especially I'm looking at this kind of breast between the arm and
the detachment of the whole
Maxence.
that is then reconstituting in another form, which is this realist method. They're getting the ordinary and transforming into the extraordinary.
yeah.
That's what
Because you can, if you twist the geometry into the curve, and there's lots of curves, lots of curves and cubes and around, but if you twist it in such a way, it becomes like anthropomorphic, where all it takes some kind of animal or fabulous animal connotations, which this has as well. So it's another borderline issue of the development of Picasso and how Cubism or he saw Cubism moving. Of course, we know that it got to a kind of dead end.
So if this is not a reflection of 3D reality, it must be a reflection of a mental 3D, a conceptual 3D. He's now wanting us to think that when we look at a glass of water, we can only see one aspect of the glass of water. But the back of the glass also exists even though we don't see it. He wants us to tell us that there's a solidity of the object, not just one aspect, but bring into play the sense that there is the air is a real thing. Air is made out of oxygen and hydrogen, so it's a physical reality. We don't see it, we know it's there because we're breathing.
Yeah.
I think he tries to paint the air. I think he's trying to tell us this figure is surrounded by air. And I'm trying to tell you, by this method, which is the only method he has, to create the sense of solidity, not only in the moving figure, but in the air around the figure, which is also another object.
But I had a very strange experience once when my parents came to Paris and I took them to the Musée Picasso, and we must have spent about 4 hours in there. So we were bombarded with Picasso. And at the beginning they were a bit reticent, you know, what's this, what's that? But at the end of that, when we went out into the street, my mother, who was very instinctive, said, you know how strange reality is. They had been so taken over by the reality of Picasso.
This other universe.
The Picasso universe, that when they went outside to normal reality of Paris and the street, you go like, but this is really strange as well. And sometimes we don't question enough of our supposed normal reality.
We don't see
and that's what he was trying to do.
Yes.
He was trying to ask viewers questions.
Yes.
To challenge them to look and to see things in a different way. The multiple viewpoints.
Let's move
when
on
you
to
go
the
into the politics of the
image.
time, and with something like Guernica, obviously, you know, things will go like
this is now
ricochet
a continuation of the theme of Cubism, but this belongs to synthetic Cubism. It's a move foot forward. If we compare the mandolin player to this one, the mandolin player is very real compared to this one, which is now all been flattened.
But
Your
here,
thoughts on this one?
but he still uses representation here, isn't it? You can see a hand, and you can see it's very clear to me. It's all very flat now, and it's what you mentioned in the beginning when the only way when you want to flatten, the only thing you can do is to use shapes and patterns, and to use different colors to emphasize those edges. And although it's all flattened out and everything, he still has to use techniques to bring you back to earth, because he's referring to, obviously it says up there, it says cafe.
Yeah, we're going to refer to that in a minute.
But you know, I suppose if you were to remove that, you could still see, but there isn't enough of a hint, but you can see something on a table there, you know. So there are techniques there he's still used to anchor you back to earth.
It's very architectural, I find.
It is very architectural.
As an architect, especially the lower half. And what I see also is that he's used the grain a lot of the canvas. You know, it's coming through a lot, which is something that goes back to Velázquez. And he must have known
in his shadow passages.
But what I've noticed is there. Where is it? There.
A hand, no?
The hand is very similar to the one that comes up in Guernica.
Yes, it is. Yes,
it's the same hand.
It is.
And this is quite a few years before.
No?
So this is like a kind of melting pot of his psyche. You know, Guernica is almost a premonition
You see, the
of what's
screaming-
going to come
the
is
screaming
there
mother, not the
in,
screaming mother.
something totally
Yeah.
different,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
still there.
See, if we come and have a look at this, because this is one of the first times, apart from maybe very early Renaissance when they used to put a lot of scrolls in the paintings, but just as information. Picasso uses the word café, he's got the accent missing, as Gino pointed out, because I think that Picasso is now beginning to enter territory, because the girl with the mandolin, we can still see a girl, we can still see a mandolin. But here, we're beginning to lose track of what we're looking at. This could be anything.
Yeah.
And I think he puts the word cafe to tell us, look, this is a cafe.
Yes.
I want to bring you back. This is not an abstract work. This is still based on reality. It's still based on what I've seen. So he anchors it on the word cafe and brings us back
Yeah.
to a reality which he never wants to be an abstract painter, Picasso. He always wants to be a realist without turning to
Representation,
abstraction.
yes.
But we go back to the child in Picasso, like, you know, when children like C for cow, or, you know, cow, you know, so that you get that correspondence between words and things. And you mentioned Magritte.
Yes.
And the pipe, and this is not a pipe. So what is it? Where are we? He's saying café. Is this café or is just a word? Maybe it's not. It's not. We tend to think the way that we are taught to relate that, oh, it says café, so this is a café, but maybe not. This is just an additional
Motif.
motif
An extra
else.
device,
thrown in because
Randomly.
randomly,
Yeah.
because one of the things that the surrealists took up, for example, is the automatic writing, you know, and this just let the psyche go. And I think all this is, to a certain extent, automatic painting, just letting the self express itself freely, not within the constraints of the academy.
I think it's time to sum up the modern masters versus the academic tradition. And again, the Bouguereau being our example piece and the Picasso. What has happened between the painting of the Bouguereau and the painting of the Café by Picasso? What has happened to the modern mind? What has happened to man? What has happened to thought, to modern man? What has gone on there? Is he becoming the real person? Is this the real world? Is this the way men were meant to think before being told what to think and how to think? Is that what we're looking at? A return to the primitive, a return to the real?
I think there's a lot of questioning. It was a time of a lot of questioning, and particularly with the First World War and the accumulation of history. You know, that's something that, if you go back to the way that Monet and Manet and well, all of them, you know, they would all go to the Louvre, like you go to Lourdes, you know, on pilgrimage, you know, and after a while you rebel. You know, it's like the, I mentioned before the Oedipus, you have to even symbolically kill the father. Yes, and this is what is the modern sensibility just does precisely thus, symbolically, but it takes it on all the influences. They're all full of the influences of the masters. It's just that they've been given this twist.
Yes. Leslie, I want to give you the last word. We've got 1 minute left. What is the change? Can you encapsulate it in a few words? What has happened to the modern mind?
For me, I think it's a wanting to go back and to know more about himself. Man wanting to know more about where he belongs and why he does the things he does.
Would that be a reason why Gauguin left Paris and went to Tahiti?
Yeah, of course.
He wanted to touch the primitive life there.
That's what he aspired to. I guess, you know, we all aspire to, you know, modern man aspires to wealth, but you know, where is that wealth?
Les Fauves, the savage ones.
Yes.
The Fauviste.
The noble savage.
Yeah, the noble savage, or at least let's go through a period of savagery, which was happening, which has been happening throughout history, but let's not pretend.
Let's not pretend. Let's touch base.
Because that is
gentlemen.
That is hypocritical. The Bulgarov.
Yes, we know it's full of lies, we know that. Well, we've come to the end of series 2 of Where's the Art? And all that's left for me to say is I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed making the programs. And hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you for your attention.